Joining me again, CNN contributor John Dean, former Nixon White House counsel, and CNN legal analyst and former White House ethics czar Norm Eisen. Norm, before we went to the break, I wanted to get into the sequencing of these cases. And a lot has been said about, well, the Manhattan DA's case is not as important as the January 6th case that the special counsel is looking into. And so what is your take on the sequencing of all of this and the strength of the Bragg case, the DA's case in Manhattan?
Jim, we looked at these hush money allegations in the impeachment because they are matters that impact our democracy in a fundamental way. You might say the impact of the 2016 alleged financial fraud to cover up the payment of hush money was actually more impactful. The attempted coup of 2020 didn't change the outcome. In the wake of Access Hollywood, another sex scandal could have altered an election that was decided by a little over 70,000 votes in 3 states, okay?
Right.
So this is a very important case. In terms of sequencing, prosecutors don't orchestrate these cases like the NFL picking which playoff game will run in what order. They look at the facts, they look at the law. When they're ready to go, they go. Alvin Bragg decided he was ready. He's not thinking about those other cases. He's not thinking about the politics, nor should he. His job is to apply the facts to the law as he would with any other defendant. And a lot of other people have been prosecuted in New York for this identical conduct, falsifying financial records to cover up illicit campaign contributions.
And John, a lot has been made of what this means for Trump, what this means for the presidency. What about what this means for the rule of law? And the idea that even the president of the United States should be held accountable if he's broken the law. You are intimately familiar with that subject matter. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's vital for that reason that this be done fairly and fully. And I'm one who has a kind of a distant hope that they might even televise these proceedings, that the argument can be made in front of this judge to make a broader audience, because I think the rule of law is at issue here. And with Trump playing with the process and belittling the process in particular, it even puts more emphasis on the importance of a proper process. And that's what this DA is doing. He's following it by the book. Mr. Trump doesn't play by the same rules as everybody else. So he's not playing by the book. And he's, as you know, going to give a speech apparently after he is arraigned when he gets back to his estate in Florida. So,
yeah, good idea.
Yes, the rule of law is it's foundational to our democracy, and all of these proceedings are going to test it.
Yeah, good idea, John. From a defense attorney standpoint, a good idea for the former president to go out there and give a speech at Mar-a-Lago right after the arraignment. I mean, it sounds like yet another setting where he may poke this judge in the eye. I can't imagine his defense team thinks this is a good idea.
Terrible idea, and he is so loose and foolish. He may cause his own jeopardy and increase his jeopardy. So it will be good theater. It will not be a good defense.
Yeah. And Norm, what about what John was saying? I mean, about this potential for the case to be televised. Isn't there an argument to be made, and several news organizations have made that argument. We're always making their argument for more access to televised things. But that the trial of a former president, on whatever the case may be, is so significant and so important. How can you not televise it?
I certainly favor it, Jim. Look, I was the ethics czar. Transparency was part of my job, right? And we maximized transparency. Judge Marchand is not exactly cut from that cloth. He's not known to be one who, he's a very fair judge and he's a very tough judge, but he wants to keep control of his courtroom. That's not always easy in the colorful human panoply that is New York City criminal practice. I've tried cases in New York City, and let me tell you, it can turn into a media circus. So I'm guessing we're not going to see that kind of transparency in this case. I will say, though, I'll take a bit of a contrarian view. Donald Trump is not only trying this case in a court of law. He is also trying this case in the court of public opinion. And he is going to attempt to make lemonade out of the lemons by appealing. He's, in a presidential primary.
Right.
He is going to use this to attempt to drive forward. In the impeachment, we found every time we did something big, his numbers would go up. Then they would come back down again as people realize the severity. So he's going to try to milk this. I think ultimately this and the other cases are going to be a net negative for him in the primary, but he's going to try to make the most of them.
Yeah, John, I mean, I guess it goes without saying that Donald Trump is going to attempt to turn this courtroom into yet another rally venue, like an amphitheater in Des Moines, Iowa, or something like that. And he is going to try to maximize this moment. They've already bragged that they've raised some money, which of course helps them, for the Republican nomination. Doesn't do them a whole lot of good for the general election, because I don't see how this makes it more palatable to a general election audience. But he is going to try to monopolize and capitalize on this.
And he has a full chorus when he does that with the Republican Party. It's been quite striking the way they've stepped forward to support his doing whatever he wants to do and claiming there's nothing criminal here. They talk about even the fact that he's being indicted as some sort of terrible act of political nature by a prosecutor who makes his living and protects New York by doing just what he's doing here. The people of New York and in the country are entitled to a fair trial, as is Donald Trump. And so I'm hoping, again, this judge is tough, as Norman finds him to be, and makes everybody play by the rules. That'll be interesting to see if how this judge handles Donald Trump in the courtroom. That might be something we're all going to be watching and analyzing in the days to come. John Dean, Norm Eisen, thanks to both of you. Really appreciate the discussion. Great stuff.